Newsroom. Today in the France 24 debate, an exclusive sneak peek into what Afghanistan's future might look like. It was exactly a year ago that France withdrew the last of its forces, almost exclusively stationed in Kapisa Province. Our reporters went there to see how the Afghan army is faring on its own. What they found was an increasingly emboldened Taliban insurgency. Food for thought as the United States and the Afghans negotiate a 15,000 foreign troop presence beyond next year's drawdown deadline. And as government delegation from Afghanistan travels to neighboring Pakistan for talks with the same Taliban who were chased from Kabul 12 years ago. Today in the France 24 debate, we're asking if it's the endless war in Afghanistan. With us from Townshend, Vermont, former UN Deputy Special Representative for Afghanistan, Peter GALBRAITH of the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. Welcome back to the show, sir. Just back from Kabul, conflict management consultant and scholar Fahimeh ROBIOLLE. Welcome again.
Thank you. And
France 24's very own Leela JACINTO. The France 24 debate where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter. Our hashtag F24Debate. Before we go to our panel, let's go to that story. 1 year after the French pullout from Afghanistan, return to Kapisa Province. It's for reporters, the France 24 investigative news magazine. This is a story read by Vikram Singh.
On my command, load, fire.
This is how the day begins in Kapisa Province, an area of strategic importance on the outskirts of Kabul. Afghan artillery is pummeling Taliban posts they discovered the night before.
Answer.
The soldiers are proud of this demonstration of force, but it's not easy for them to map their targets.
Answer.
Get those idiots back. We can't trust them.
A year ago, the French army declared that the Afghans trained by them were ready to take on the insurgents. We went back to see what has become of the region that France controlled on behalf of NATO for 4 years.
Answer. I just can't reach them.
Wait, I'll try their mobile phone. Why don't you answer? We've been trying to reach you for 30 minutes now. Everything's under control. They just have to answer so we can be sure we don't shoot any civilians. We've managed to speak to them and they've told us to target the same spots as yesterday.
68 French troops lost their lives fighting against the Taliban in Kapisa Province. Mission accomplished, or an exercise in futility. Later that morning, we joined armoured units from the 201 Corps. Trained by the French, it's considered one of the best in the country. Its mission is to defend this key route used by NATO convoys on their way to Kabul. But since the French withdrawal, the Taliban's attacks have steadily mounted.
This village have Taliban. Sometimes it is coming here on mount. He fire, He fire with me.
Today, the Afghan army has learned that the Taliban have planted a mine in this village. Frontline troops secure the area. Their goal, to protect the mine disposal team from an ambush. Improvised mines are the rebels' most deadly weapons, and the Taliban are now planting them much closer to the road.
Okay, they found the mine. Move back, quickly.
The trainers may have been French, but the technology is American. The United States has spent several $1 billion to equip this army.
Come on, move it forward.
But a problem arises, this time a stone. And again, the Afghans struggle to overcome it. With their bare hands and no protection, they manage to defuse the mine.
There you go. It's okay now. All right, stand back, everyone.
The route is clear. The soldiers begin searching the houses for hidden weapons. but they lack conviction.
Look under here.
They are only blankets.
The soldiers know that the inhabitants will say that they haven't seen or heard anything. In their eyes, most of these villagers are pro-Taliban.
How are you, sweetie? Aren't you ugly? You have the dirty little face of a Taliban. Look at them. They're all future Taliban. You can tell just by looking at their horrible faces.
A mine has been found just outside this man's home. The soldiers have no choice but to interrogate him.
I've never seen any Taliban here. They never come to this village.
Why are you lying?
I swear to God.
They came in front of your home and you didn't see anything?
No, I swear.
They come from the mountains in the night and we don't see them. We know that in this village 40% of the people support the Taliban, and it's with their cooperation that the Taliban are able to plant mines here or attack the road. I know that he's lying because he's scared of telling the truth. He's scared of what will happen when the Taliban come again through the mountains.
Today, it's the Taliban, along with dozens of other rebel groups, who lay down the law in Kapisa and Sorobi, omnipresent but invisible. We managed to get in touch with one of them, the Islamic Emirate of Uzbin. In 2008, it carried out one of the deadliest attacks on the French army, in which 10 soldiers were killed. For the meeting, we had to travel deep into Taliban territory. The man we went to interview is their spokesman. He's part of the political wing. For this reason, we can't reveal his identity.
I also have to record the interview. We have procedures. My commander wants to keep a track of the questions you ask and the answers I give.
In the villages, men like him enforce the dictates of the Taliban.
Make sure you press record and we'll sit here. We've been wanting to talk to a French channel for quite a long time now. We want the whole world to know that the French have lost the war here. They left after losing a lot of their people. The day the French left, we, the Taliban, were a little sad, because with their hasty retreat, they robbed us of a clear victory. But we have to admit that they were good soldiers. They never shot at civilians, even if we were hiding in houses and shooting at them from windows. But the Afghan army shoots at anything that moves and aims at maximum damage. They shoot at our wives and children. They have destroyed our homes and killed our cattle.
We had to stop the interview because of a helicopter passing overhead. The Americans constantly patrol the region, but in a few months, they too will leave. The Taliban have already declared victory.
All that the government controls is the main road and the foreign bases. Everything else is ours. The Afghan army is a band of mercenaries paid by foreigners. But when aid stops flowing in, they will do as mercenaries do when the money runs out. They'll stop fighting.
To counter the Taliban presence in the villages, special forces often conduct night operations. We'd been trying for weeks to get permission to film one such operation. And finally, one night, we were summoned by the Afghan army.
We're going to lead an operation into the mountains. We have obtained information about enemy movement up there. So, are you ready? Okay, let's go in the car.
The movement of the column of tanks looks impressive, but we quickly understand what's going on. The tanks stop a few hundred meters from the base, with all their lights switched on.
Yes, this is where we will do the operation.
The men don't have night vision equipment. They install the mortar by the light of our camera. After constant firing, the troops return with a prisoner.
And you, what are you doing in a soldier's uniform?
The fake Taliban struggles to keep a straight face.
Okay, get his clothes off. Where do you come from?
Pakistan.
May God destroy Pakistan. Take him away.
The situation begs the question, if it's so easy to catch them, why haven't the Americans succeeded?
We have a lot of experience. Our tactics are very good. We surround them so they have no possibility of counterattacking.
This parody confirms a sad reality. At night, the Taliban are the kings of Kapisa. Back in Kabul, we meet a former French Special Forces translator. We can't reveal his identity because the French authorities have advised him not to speak to journalists. If he does, his visa request could be turned down.
This is François Hollande, and this is me, and this is the general. It's at the end of the mission of French guys in Kapisa, something like that, I don't know.
Even though he's from Kapisa, he can no longer go back because of the Taliban.
Before, when the French forces and government was over there, the situation was controllable, you know. But right now, the situation is worse because they can camp, they can infiltrate, they can do what they want.
Like him, hundreds of Afghans feel abandoned, even betrayed by those they once served.
I interrogate a lot of bad guys, 4 or 5 Taliban leaders. Taliban, they have an ideology that if someone is working with the foreigners, he is infidel, like he is a spy. If they arrest you, you know better that they decapitate or maybe they kill you at once.
For over a year now, this translator has been waiting for the visa the French promised him. If he doesn't get it soon, he says he'll try to reach Europe illegally. The signs of abandonment are visible across the region. The coalition was supposed to build schools and hospitals to win hearts and minds. Far from the capital, they seem to have lost that battle. This morning, we're following a health services official in Kapisa. Dr. Mirza is going on an inspection tour. He knows everyone in the region and recognizes the Islamic militants who pass on their motorbikes.
Yeah, have you seen? Yeah, they were not an ordinary person. Yeah.
So you think they were insurgents?
Yeah, I think so.
In these isolated valleys, the ambulance is the only government vehicle in which we can travel safely. Faced with the Taliban's advance, Dr. Mirza confesses that he has negotiated some terms with them. The combatants get healthcare without being exposed to the authorities. In exchange, they provide protection to medical centers like this one. That's why Dr. Mirza never uses the word Taliban.
You can see the
If the opposition runs out of medicine, or if they don't have something, they will send a request to the health ministry and they'll tell us what they need. We have this deal because I decided not to differentiate between people, even on political grounds. Good health has no borders.
Village dispensaries remain rudimentary. Even though the international community has invested several $1 million in Kapisa since 2001. The money was enthusiastically spent, but rarely for a good cause. Dr. Mirza has seen too many broken promises. This construction site, for example, should have been a state-of-the-art hospital, serving the entire province.
When did it start?
On 2006, and it was supposed to be completed within 18 months, but we couldn't.
Because investors are afraid to travel to the region, they appoint Afghans to inspect their projects. But this only increases the likelihood of funds being embezzled. According to the doctor, since the French left, 80% of all development projects in Kapisa are no longer operational.
Companies are spending the bare minimum, and they are delivering substandard buildings, and those who could have opposed them have closed their eyes. It's because of corruption that we now have this construction mess, missed deadlines and abandoned projects. Unless the international community insists upon getting this project done, this is what Afghanistan will look like, abandoned.
For 12 years now, the country has survived on international aid. However, civilian casualties are still numerous. This is Bagrami camp on the outskirts of Kabul. Kapisa's refugees have resettled here. Opened 5 years ago, the displaced still continue to flood in. With more than 1,200 people, the camp is at maximum capacity.
Life is hard here, but in Kapisa we are sick to our stomachs with fear. Either we die at the hands of the Taliban or the government, so we prefer to live in these tents.
Bashir lost his father in an attack 3 years ago, but his uncle's death in a bomb blast last May convinced him to leave. Despite the horrors, the family has at last had a stroke of luck. It's been given the last available tent in the camp. Fragile protection against Kabul's icy nights.
Winter is coming and we have no protection against the cold. Look, when it snows, the roof can cave in.
Despite the tough conditions, Bashir wanted to keep his family away from the war.
You used to go to school, didn't you? It was when the French were still there?
Yes.
What happened when they left?
A bomb destroyed my school, and then we couldn't go there anymore. There were many bomb blasts, so we couldn't even leave the house.
And who was planting the bombs?
Taliban.
We could not stay there anymore. We didn't know if the children would come back alive. They could have stepped on a mine or been killed by bullets.
Like the French a year ago, the Americans too have decided to withdraw their troops next year, no matter what. It's safe to say that the advance of the Taliban in Kapisa Surobi is just a taste of what's to come when the last of the coalition troops finally leave Afghanistan.
That story for reporters, the France 24 investigative news magazine. We're going to get reactions to that story and to the plan for Afghanistan, what with 15,000 US-led troops perhaps due to stay on for another decade. Stay with us. It's the France 24 debate.